right, okay, I know they've had this car from us for 2 years. They're probably going to be looking at changing. Let's start educating them about what's next.
But Karen's right. Again, being in the industry for such a short time, it's really apparent that everyone thinks that people know what an EV looks like because we see them all the time. But you're absolutely right that there are so many people that wouldn't even know what that looked like on the inside.
Hello and welcome to the Armchair Show. I'm so thrilled to have you guys here today. Today I've got 3 fantastic guests joining us for our EV special. So we'll kick off with an introduction. I know we've just filmed it because we've just filmed another episode. But for anyone that hasn't watched the previous episode and has no idea who we are, who are we with today?
So I'm Simon Bottomley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Vindis Group, a retail organisation. But I'm also the chair of a tech business called Jigcar and a board advisor to some other tech businesses.
Fantastic. Sounds very, very busy.
Yeah, it has its moments.
I'm Amy Bellamy and I'm the marketing manager for Vosper's Motorhouse, which is based in the southwest.
Fantastic.
I'm Karen Hurlstone. I'm the business development manager for MTC, which is a bespoke web design business based up in Dundee.
Fantastic. So EVs are the hot topic at the moment, and they have been for just a little while now. Pretty much the centre of many conversations that we have. So I guess, can you give us a quick peek overview for what is happening with EVs at the moment? What are you seeing when you look at the market for EVs?
Well, from a retailer's perspective, the actual fact of the matter is that they are not in high demand. Mm-hmm. And this stems for and I'm not making a political observation here, but it stems from a very confused strategy from this government and the previous governments about just what this means as an industry and as a wider society. So, do we need to explore alternative fuels other than the normal combustion engine? Clearly we do. Is there a place for electric vehicles in that? Clearly there is. But at the moment, the reality is that there are more electric vehicles being made than people want to buy. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason for that is the confusion around the government strategy, the fact that there is still a perception that there are not enough charging points. And the fact of the matter is, from a retailer, unfortunately, we are on the dirty end of the stick of a poorly thought out strategy that actually is going to hurt the industry if we don't get a grip on it quickly. And I say we, I mean the government. So, am I a fan of EVs? As a concept, yes. As a retailer, not in the slightest.
So our stock is definitely not matching what customers are looking for at the moment. And there is still that perception, range anxiety, charging points, cost, maintenance, still so many concerns that customers have. How do we help customers with those concerns? How do we guide customers that have those anxieties, aren't sure? How do we improve our marketing and messaging, Amy?
Customers are wary. We've seen that. The facts and figures are there. Educating the customers is into what it would mean for them to own an electric vehicle. It's different from every household, and it depends on where you live and your lifestyle and how often you use your vehicle. But trying to get those points across and educating the customer better is really important. People are interested and they've got lots of questions about it and they're keen to learn. So we just need to make sure that we're getting the right messages out on the right platforms. We're starting to do a bit more with sort of influencer marketing and dabbling more into that because it's something that we haven't really explored as an organisation. I think as an industry as well, it's still fairly new to a lot of us. So we're trying to work with the right people to get these messages across. But also making sure that the questions are answered through our own website and that our staff understand and can get the right messages across.
And it's not the manufacturer's fault. Some of the products that you guys sell and that we sell, they're fantastic. they are some of the best vehicles that I've seen in the time. It's just that the message for some reason isn't resonating with customers.
They're scared. It's so different. It's so different. And I was actually considering it myself on the drive here, because I had quite a journey to get here, and imagining myself, I've got a hybrid, and I was thinking, if I were in a solely electric vehicle, it would just be a case of just replanning your route and your day and being much more organised in your life, which isn't always practical, and it is a little bit scary to make that transition, but it can be done. But you just have to have a different mindset about your driving experience.
I think you're right. You're 100% correct. The secret to this is about educating the customers. And I think EVs can have an absolute place, and we can sell more EVs as an industry as long as we get the customers to understand what the benefits are. You're 100% correct.
And that website content and answering the questions is super key. So I guess from MTC's perspective, when it comes to kind of website build, what does that kind of EV journey look like?
It's very important. I mean, they've already put together an EV sort of package as such that we help the retailers with regarding their EV, sales and how that looks, and what's important of how easy that is for the consumer to understand. Going back to Amy and Simon's point, is actually for a consumer to see that on a website. We all know they do their research now. They think they're so well informed because they've read this, they've talked to them. The best mate said it's the best car they've ever had. So they come in, they sit there, and they go, I'm really scared, I don't want to do it, from an EV point of view. And I'm going to be honest, I was the same. I fought, because it was a company car, and I've been driving EVs now for over 3 years. I really didn't want it, because I travel all over the country, and I love being out. I can't bear being home. And I thought, I'm never going to do it, I'm never going to do it, I'm never going to do it. And I was made to do it. And I would say it took me less than 2 days to realise that I never wanted to go back to a nice car. Now, going back to Amy's point, I now have to plan my journeys. I'm lucky that I drive a Tesla, so the supercharging for Teslas is far superior than the charging for other brands. But I know every Tesla supercharger in the UK. Every single one. I know my plan back here today. I've driven here today, but I've got a home charger at home, a proper pod point. So when I get home, I'm very fortunate. This is where my hubby is really great. I get home, he goes out, he plugs my car in. I never leave my house without a full charge, ever. So it's about planning. It's about helping the consumer. I'm part of a group called Women Drive Electric on Facebook, LinkedIn. You need to join, because every single day, and I am not exaggerating, there must be 20, 30 women that are looking at buying an electric vehicle and don't know who to go to, who to trust. You go on there. I'm forever... Robin Luscombe must owe me an absolute fortune, because I'm forever saying, and Adam Derbyshire at Spirit as well down in Northampton, because I know them so well, and I know they do EVs really well. I'm going, go and speak to these guys, go and speak to these guys. I know you're down in Surrey, but I don't know. I know they do EVs, but I know these two specialise in managing the consumer's expectations, especially women. And go on there. I promise you, and you get somebody. It has to be a woman, because it's a women driving. Sorry,
I'll get somebody else to
but just get one of the women in sales, etc., to join the group, because they can help them and they can give them advice. And the secret is, no question is too silly. So they can ask everything without feeling, oh God, I don't know that. Somebody asked, can I take an EV through a car wash? It's not a silly question. They don't know.
Of course.
So you talk about the fear of people coming in, but I love my EV. I love promoting EVs. I'm part of Women in Automotive. I'm part of Driven Women. And I really believe, going back to what I was talking about, how to do things better, Ginny Buckley's a great one, electrifying.com. If you contact electrifying.com, I'm sure you could get a link to their website or get some of their content to speak to them, because all they want you to do is sell more EVs. So there's so much in the UK that you're not utilising, because it's sometimes you think, well, this is our dealership, this is our group, this is what we've got to do. where actually there's so much out there that's free content, that's free help, free people thinking, I want to buy a car, but I don't know which one I want. I think I want an I-Pace. Why do you want an I-Pace? Nobody asks that question. No, why do you want an I-Pace?
And I think, just if I may, just to expand on the points that you both made, I think as leaders in the industry, we have to accept that this stuff is coming. Right?
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
We have to sort of build advocacy in our own teams, actually. Because I think there's that ingrained scepticism, and the opening comment that I made is, as a retailer, I'm not so happy about it because I've got all of these cars that aren't easy to sell. But that will change as we build advocacy for these for the product, as we accept that we've got to be more. We've got to plan our routes back. As we accept that, actually, it's probably a good idea if you're travelling back to Cheshire that you do stop for a break anyway.
Absolutely, which I would have done.
Right.
Anyway.
Now you just plug the car in.
Yeah.
So,
I do emails. I catch up on calls.
Yeah.
Have a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It does help me, but I do plan my route, and of course it's not for everybody. You've got terraced housing, you've got all the arguments that come back, but there will be a time actually where you go to a supermarket and there will be a full bank of chargers.
Yes, you're right.
I still don't understand why at supermarkets or at service stations they haven't got because everything's open. They could do so much more to sort of help, and moving forward I think that will happen. But it is scary. I was terrified, and I've been driving every single car in the world, but now I absolutely love it. MTC are EV focused, so part of our tech and part of our assistance in helping guys talk about their websites and about educating the consumer and making it easier for them to understand, and having those questions of, I want an EV. Okay, what does an EV look like for you? Where do you live? Right, okay, let's have a look at that area. One of the other things that I suggested, we're talking to a big motorhome and caravan business at the moment. And I said, one of the questions that get asked on Women Drive EV is what EV could pull a caravan? Now, that's a crazy thing to think, but actually you have that information on your website. Somebody who's a caravanner and looking at changing their car, and you have that information ready to say, well, this car will pull this type of caravan. It's another way in of you selling a vehicle because you've got another type of client out there. We know there's millions of caravanners out there, but have that. There's loads and loads of little tricks and little tips and things that would help the EV market.
It's also about the customer having that trust in the person that they're buying from as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That they're not just making it up to try and hit their targets and
No,
sell
exactly.
that vehicle.
And Devon and Cornwall is caravan land anyway.
Oh, it is.
But I just think we could do, as you say, it's coming, it's happening. The younger generation growing up.
We have to adapt.
We do have to adapt.
I live in a very, very, there's literally about 7 houses where I am, but one of them is a driving instructor, and he's moved now to primarily just electric cars. He moved to automatic only about 5 years ago, but he says literally there's not many people that actually want to learn to drive in a manual. Younger people, like coming out of school, etc. They said, what's the point? I'll never have one.
All cars will be automatic because all cars will be electric.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So,
That's a really good point. Yeah, really good point. Have you seen any good examples of anyone that's doing a really good job to help customers with that range anxiety, with their questions, to ease those concerns? Any good jobs of marketing, whether that's from an OEM, dealer group, classified, or anybody else that's a good...
I think the OEMs generally are becoming much more attuned to getting the message across. I think I've seen a great improvement in terms of their resources and their approach to it. The manufacturers that I deal with are pretty supportive about it. They understand that there's got to be a step change in terms of building awareness and building advocacy and what have you. Despite the fact that the government they're hamstrung, I really feel for the OEMs actually, because the fact of the matter is that if the government doesn't sort out the strategy, they're going to get fined thousands of euros for a car. I mean, I really feel for the OEMs. So I think generally across the piece, there has been better, more sophisticated sort of thought leadership about how we're going to get these cars into the market from manufacturers. And I'm not going to tell you what retail groups I think do it brilliantly, because I don't want them to sell the cars and not me.
Well, why didn't you say yourself then?
Apart from us, I mean,
Yeah.
we're obviously the market leader. But I mean, in all honesty, look, I don't mind admitting that somebody like Robin Luscombe does a fantastic job. I mean,
He does do a fantastic job.
He's really impred it. So
Definitely going to have
if
to
we
send
could-
him this episode, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. If we could be more Robin, then I'd be a happy guy.
But I think it's just a case he embraced it when a lot of the dealer groups moved away from it, especially when Musk, dropped the prices of Tesla. So that basically impacted all of the other, franchises and cost of the EVs out there. Sam Lusk and Robin thought, do you know what? No, we're still going to buy, and they did. They carried on buying, even though they were really, really like, oh my God, we're sitting on this and, is it going to drop again? Is it going to move? But, it worked out for them. They do really, really well. But one of the other things I would suggest from a website point of view and from, a frequently asked questions is having an EV special, features, benefits and myths. And, the myths are ridiculous. Oh, it'll blow up. Oh, I can't go through a car wash. Oh, I can't, put them just say this is not true. Look at what's great about driving an EV. Look at what works. Look at what the caveats are. Look at what the risks are of where you live and why it may not work. And
Because it isn't right for everybody at the moment.
but a hybrid would be.
Yeah,
You could move them into a
absolutely.
hybrid. There's no reason to lose an EV.
No.
If somebody wants to come in for an EV, but actually you sit with them and go, well, Karen, actually looking at everything about where your house is, what you're doing, etc., what your role is, how far you're travelling, we would suggest you actually move into that slowly, but look at the hybrids we have. This will give you that starter and that mix, and move into EV when everything is, works for you, etc. So you shouldn't lose any EV client because you've got such a range of vehicles. Franchise dealers that lose an EV client is crazy because you've got an option to do other things. Put me in the showroom, I'd sell them.
I'd love to hear your views, Amy, because you've been in the industry for 8 months, right?
Yeah.
So for you, the industry is new. EVs is this big change, and you mentioned earlier about the amount of jargon that we've got in this industry, and EVs brings a whole new host of even more jargon on top of the jargon that we already had. So from a marketing perspective, what do you think that we can do better? What do you think the answer is to help customers?
We're in a good position with EV because people genuinely are interested.
Yeah.
It's this new product, they're hearing so much about it and thinking, oh, is that right for me? I want a new car. Am I going to need to make that change into EV? And are hungry to find out more about it. So it gives us opportunities to make sure we put it across all of our platforms. But one of the I think that Ford do a really good job of educating people on the message of EV. And at a marketing conference recently, we were introduced to this great big touring sort of exhibition centre almost that they take around to show, and you can go inside it and understand all the different elements of what an EV will do for you. And it's just one step forward for people to find out more about it and get it out there, get that message out there. So we just try and incorporate it into everything that we do and all the platforms that we work on, whether that's our social media, our website, and making sure that our staff within the showrooms and sales teams know exactly what it is that they're talking about.
Nice.
I think the other thing you guys could do, Michelle Breffett and George is a woman, Georgina, but she calls herself George, they run the Women Drive EV, and they do events all the time throughout the UK, and in the summer it's obviously a lot nicer, but you could actually invite them along and do like a Women Drive EV day. So it's just an open day, you just put on some tea, some coffee, some pop and a few biscuits. But they are hugely successful, and you get your vehicles out there. And just get people, get your sales team to drive people around in one. People have never even been in one. And even if they're coming into the showroom thinking they don't want an EV, while they're waiting or, they're after sales or service, get one of the sales guys to take them out for a drive in an EV. Because I guarantee it'll be the first time they've ever been in one.
Bums
and
in
all of a
seats sell
sudden,
cars, right?
their mentality starts changing. They start asking questions. And you think about, right, okay, I know they've had this car from us for 2 years. They're probably going to be looking at changing. Let's start educating them about what's next.
But Karen's right. Again, being in the industry for such a short time, it's really apparent that everyone thinks that people know what an EV looks like because we
They don't.
see them all the time. But you're absolutely right that there are so many people that wouldn't even know what that looked like on the inside.
I think we have an obligation as a retailer as well, or as an industry, to make sure that we actually are, and this is picking up on a point that you made, which I think was a very, very good point, is it doesn't necessarily suit every customer.
No.
So we have to look at the obligations that we have, and not necessarily talking a legal obligation, but treating customers fairly around the fact that we're putting people into the right product. And I think a lot of that means asking the right questions, understanding what their driving habits are, making sure that they've got a charging point at home, making sure they've got access to charging points. If we can build that confidence in the people that we're trying to sell to, well, that can't be anything other than a good thing, can it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
getting them to understand in the cold, it does drain your battery quicker. The first time it happens,
Education.
it's
Cold
it is
drains
education.
my battery quicker as
I
well.
know,
So
but it is education, and again, these facts, the figures, the reality, the myths, they're important.
They
Tell
are.
people the
Yeah,
truth.
it's
Yeah.
about educating people.
Tell them the truth. The more information, when we build these websites on the EV specialists, we put absolutely everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because understand.
It's even the thing about the range, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll never do 400 miles on that battery. Well, you won't actually do 600 miles on that car with a gallon of diesel.
Not the way I used to drive.
Unless you go around a test track at 53 miles an hour with all of the air conditioning turned on. So it's only an indicator of what it is
Absolutely.
comparable to the next car coming along that's on the test track. It's little things like educating like that are important, I think.
Very much so.
perfect, fantastic.
Armchair Marketing.